The morning sunlight poured through the glass panels of ABC's New York studio, reflecting off the sleek set of The View. The chatter of the studio audience hummed like a low current as the stage crew adjusted lights and microphones. Today's show promised something special, an interview with Nicolas Cage, a name that always brought unpredictability. When the intro music faded and the hosts waved to the camera, Behar was already grinning, that sharp-edged, playful smile that often spelled trouble for guests who didn't know what they were walking into. "Good morning, everyone," Whoopi Goldberg announced cheerfully. "Today we've got the one and only Nicolas Cage joining us, Academy Award winner, Hollywood legend, and let's be honest, one of the most fascinating guys in the business." The crowd erupted in applause. Moments later, Cage emerged from backstage, wearing a black velvet jacket and aviator sunglasses. His presence filled the stage, confident but distant, like a man who never quite trusted the ground beneath him. "Nick, welcome to The View," Whoopi said as he took his seat between her and Joy. "Pleasure to be here," he said, his gravelly voice both charming and wary. "Though I've heard this table can get spirited." That drew a laugh from the audience. Even Joy smirked. "Oh, don't worry, we'll go easy on you," she said, crossing her legs and tilting her head in mock innocence. Cage removed his sunglasses slowly and set them on the table. His sharp blue eyes flicked toward her. "I've heard that one before," he said dryly. The segment began light. They talked about his new movie, a dark, character-driven drama about a man seeking redemption. He spoke with his usual passion, describing how he poured every piece of himself into the role. His voice carried an intensity that filled the space, and for a few minutes, the audience was enthralled. But Behar couldn't resist adding a little fuel to the fire. "Nicholas," she began, leaning forward, "you've been in some interesting films over the years. The Wicker Man, Ghost Rider, Vampire's Kiss. Classics for sure," she teased, her tone half joking, half needling. "But do you ever look back and think, what the hell was I thinking?" The crowd laughed, a little too loud, a little too eager to see what he'd do. Cage didn't smile. He paused for a moment, then said, "I think every performance is a piece of who I was at that time. You can mock it, you can meme it, but those moments, they're real. They're mine." The laughter in the audience softened. Joy raised an eyebrow. "I'm not mocking," she said, though the grin on her face said otherwise. "I'm just saying you've got a reputation for, let's call it creative choices." "Creative choices are what separate the brave from the boring," he shot back, voice calm but sharp as glass. The audience oohed softly. Whoopi tried to steer things back. "So, Nick, you've said before you approach acting like a form of—" But Joy interrupted, eyes twinkling. "Come on, though, not every movie's art, right? I mean National Treasure too?" Cage's lips twitched, not into a smile, but something colder. "Joy," he said, his tone quiet and deliberate, "millions of people loved that movie. It gave kids something fun, something adventurous. If bringing a little joy to the world isn't art, I don't know what is." Applause broke out, scattered at first, then swelling. Joy's smile faltered slightly. "Well," she said, "I suppose everyone defines art differently." He leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Exactly. Which is why it's strange when people who've never risked failure in art feel entitled to define it." That landed hard. Whoopi muttered under her breath, "Oh boy," while Sarah Haynes tried to change the subject, but it was too late. The audience felt the tension now, pulsing between the two of them like heat. Joy laughed tightly. "Well, I may not make movies, but I've had a successful career making people think and laugh for over 40 years. Cage nodded slowly. "And I respect that. But there's a difference between laughter that opens minds and laughter that shuts people down." The audience clapped again, sensing the shift. This wasn't banter anymore. This was a clash of philosophies. Joy straightened in her chair. "Oh, so now you're the moral authority on comedy too?" "No," he said, voice low. "Just on respect." The air in the studio thinned. Cameras zoomed in on Joy's face, on Cage's stillness. Even the crew behind the cameras stopped moving. Whoopi tried again. "Okay, let's all take a breath here." But Joy couldn't let it go. "I just think," she said, gesturing toward him, "you take yourself a little too seriously sometimes. You're a great actor, Nick, but lighten up. Not everything's a Shakespearean tragedy." Cage leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. "That's the problem, Joy. The world laughs at everything because it's afraid to feel anything. You call it humor. I call it fear." That line hit like a thunderclap. The audience murmured, some clapping, some gasping. Whoopi rubbed her temples. Joy looked stunned for a heartbeat before forcing out, "Wow, deep thoughts from the guy who yelled, 'Not the bees.'" In a movie. The studio hallway behind the view was buzzing like a kicked beehive. Producers whispered urgently into headsets, stagehands hustled props aside, and assistants clutched clipboards as they exchanged looks of disbelief. The energy that had crackled on stage hadn't faded. It had followed Nicolas Cage and Joy Behar right into the corridors. Joy sat in her dressing room, makeup artist hovering around her but daring not to speak. She was fuming, cheeks flushed, jaw tight as she replayed the moment in her mind. She'd sparred with politicians, celebrities, and activists, but Cage had struck a nerve. He hadn't shouted, hadn't insulted her outright. Worse, he'd outclassed her in front of millions. "Can you believe that guy?" She snapped suddenly, breaking the silence. "Comes on my show, lectures me about respect? Please. He's lucky I didn't ask him about half the weird stuff he's done." One of the producers, a young woman named Taylor, hesitated before speaking. He's already left the stage, Joy. Security said he went straight out the back exit." Joy frowned, dabbing powder on her face herself. "Good, let him walk. He just saved us from another 10 minutes of his pseudo-intellectual nonsense." But deep down, the tremor in her hand betrayed her. She knew the internet was already lighting up. Down the hall, Nicolas Cage strode through the maze of equipment and wires, his jacket slung over his shoulder, the fury in his movements tempered by something quieter: disappointment. His publicist hustled beside him, phone in hand, eyes wide. "Nick, we need to do some damage control," she said. "Social media's already going crazy. There are clips everywhere. You're trending #1 on X. Half the comments are calling it the most savage takedown of The View ever." He stopped walking, glancing at her. "And the other half?" She bit her lip. "They're calling you arrogant." He gave a small, humorless laugh. "Arrogance just what people call conviction when they don't have any." Before the publicist could answer, a production assistant ran up, breathless. "Mr. Cage! The producers are asking if you'll come back on for the last segment. Maybe smooth things over, say something light, end on a good note." Cage adjusted his sunglasses, the faintest smirk tugging at his lips. "A good note? I think the truth was a pretty good note." "But sir, the network—" He held up a hand. "Tell the network I didn't walk out on the truth. I walked out on disrespect." And with that, he continued toward the exit. Meanwhile, on set, the crew scrambled to fill airtime. The music had played through the break, but the energy was still awkwardly off. When the red light blinked on again, Whoopi Goldberg sat front and center, wearing a diplomatic smile that looked more like exhaustion. "Welcome back to The View," she began carefully. "So, Nicolas Cage has decided to step out early today." Laughter from the audience, forced and uncertain. Joy chimed in, feigning casualness. "Yeah. Apparently he's got somewhere more important to be. Maybe a treasure to hunt?" The audience laughed again, more genuinely this time, but Whoopi shot her a look. "Joy? What? It's a joke!" "Yeah, that's what got us into this mess," Whoopi muttered under her breath, loud enough for the cameras to pick up faintly. Sarah Haynes jumped in to redirect. "Anyway, that was certainly something. I think we just witnessed live TV history." Joy chuckled, but the glint in her eyes said she wasn't done. "History, huh? More like a Hollywood meltdown." Backstage, a sound technician watching from a monitor snorted. "Meltdown? He was calm as a monk. She's the one who looked like she was about to combust. His coworker elbowed him. Careful, man. Joy's got ears hoping to frame it as good television rather than a public implosion. Joy returned to the green room, fanning herself dramatically. You'd think after 50 years in this business I could ask one question without someone losing their mind. Whoopi entered behind her, leaning against the doorway. You didn't ask a question. You took a swing, Joy blinked. Oh, come on, Whoopi, he's Nicolas Cage. You know how he gets. It's part of the brand. People love it when he freaks out. Whoopi crossed her arms. He didn't freak out. He called you out. Big difference. Joy's lips thinned. I was joking. And he wasn't laughing, Whoopi said simply, and walked out. That night, Joy sat at home with a glass of wine, flipping channels. Every entertainment show had the same headline.